It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. So, you're trying to help your team find their groove. I can tell you the groove's in the heart, and it's sometimes hard to find. I just read an article from Stefan Wolpers, and it talks about 9 sprint goal principles to support your Scrum team in finding its mojo, to get them in the groove. And I read through these, and I can tell you I was in alignment with 99% of what's here. So let's go through one at a time and talk about each one for a couple of minutes and see if we can find a good sweet spot. Here we go. Coming at number 1, have a sprint goal in the first place. I know it sounds funny, but there's so many organizations that say, hey, we can operate without one of those. We're fine. And then what they quickly realize is that this is kind of like the beacon. It's the siren. It calls everybody to the shore. And if you don't have a solid beacon, people are going to be mapping everything all over the place. So even if you're working offshore in a different group or whatever the case may be, you want to make sure it's clear that you have a sprint goal, that the sprint goal is in place. You can even count it as a 0-point backlog item if you want, but I want to make sure I see it every single sprint in a sprint backlog. And I want everybody to have visibility to it as much as they can every day, right? Okay, how about number 2? Avoid a top-down sprint goal. So instead of having management or leadership come in and say, well, let us help you align that sprint goal and let them pick the goal for you. The sprint goal is supposed to belong to the team, and it's something that they can manage from the ground up. You don't need a manager from on high. Oh, it's going to give you your sprint goal. If you do that, you're going to lose every time. All right, let's go to number 3. Avoid output-driven sprint goals. How many times, I think I'm going to turn blue in the face, I say this too much. Your goal should be to consistently focus on outcome, not output. We should be focusing on what yields impact. And if you're constantly just looking at output driven goals, they're going to cause you to start thinking about time and start thinking about relevance instead of thinking about behavior and instead of thinking about how people engage these sprint goals. Okay, let's continue to take a look at the next one. This one's called the pseudo-Sprint goal. The best way to describe this is a random assortment of work items that needs to be squeezed under a single sprint goal. So it's kind of like the potpourri or the, the cornucopia of sprint goals. It's just got a little bit of everything in there. This is when organizations bring me in and say, we just want to agilify what we're doing. Can't we just sprinkle some Scrum dust on there and call it good, make some things scrummy? And we all know it doesn't work that way, but it's just so funny because the truth is, as Scrum is focusing on creating an outcome and not toiling in whatever work is thrown at the team, it allows you to really dedicate yourself and stay focused. So in a real world of work, you may want to consider that pseudo sprint goals are a common thing and they're evil. There, I said it. All right, how about this one? Coming in at number 5, have a reasonable forecast. Your Scrum team makes many interlinked assumptions about the future delivery capabilities that initially excite stakeholders, only to disappoint them with a failure to deliver, right? So any Scrum team plays the infinite game. And the truth is, if you keep playing that game, there aren't going to be any winners. There are people who are embracing what they can do, and they understand how to reasonably forecast at a personal level. But sometimes they lack that alignment when it comes to forecasting at the team level. So I think it's just ultimately important for stakeholders to trust the team to do their job and for teams to trust that the information they're being given is good so that they can make really, really good forecasts and really, really take advantage of what those expectations are for the forecast. Okay. Coming in at number 6, don't play safe all the time. I call it the once bitten, twice shy, right? Despite all the lip service that's paid to Agile principles, the organization doesn't take underperformance kindly. So if you're constantly underperforming, somebody's going to bring it up and you're going to be in a bad way. Align with your sprint goal every single sprint. Make sure you're focused. Make sure that if your team's busting its butt, you shouldn't be padding your estimates, but work shouldn't be piled on either. So it's one of those things where without a sprint goal, nobody knows where your true focus is, and it makes it harder for you to get to the point where you are, dedicating and finishing the things that you said you were going to do because it wasn't in alignment with any goal. So the key here is if you have a sprint goal, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to achieve a sprint goal. That makes total sense. All right. How about avoid a confidential sprint goal? If the Scrum team keeps the stakeholders in the dark until the sprint review, and surprise, cliffhangers are a great way to accelerate tension and excitement for all audience members. But that shouldn't be the case when you're dealing with stakeholders. You don't want to leave them hanging on a cliff. Is it done? Is it not done? What's going on? If so, they'll come in nervous. And anytime you get stakeholders who are nervous and people are nervous delivering the news, you're not going to end up with something good. It's just truth. All right, next one. Have a flexible sprint goal. The sprint goal shouldn't be so locked in that it can't be achieved. I know that sounds weird, but I've seen people who get really, really, really specific sprint goals and they're not flexible. They're extremely rigid. There's like a 1 in a million chance of getting it done. But, on that day, at that very moment, this person feels like, oh, I'm invincible. I can get that done. When in reality, if you were more flexible and you had a little bit of wiggle room, it would allow you to pivot if you need to, or adjust if you need to, so that the team can build confidence by achieving goal after goal and earning another notch in their belt. Yes. And then finally, deliver the sprint goal more often than not. I tell people all the time, if you dedicate your focus to the sprint goal, it's going to be a lot easier for you to deliver it. And if you can really focus in on that sprint goal and get things done every sprint and stop carrying work over and make sure what you're delivering adds value, it's going to make your life a whole lot easier. It's going to make the stakeholders a lot happier. And it's just going to bring everyone great joy. So the sprint goal is not and was never optional in Scrum. It's something we always should have been doing. It's just now it's brought front and center in the light. And I think that many people miss the fact that the Scrum goal is incredibly important. So if you haven't started doing sprint goals yet, I encourage you to start today. That's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a question, concern, issue, or something you want us to review, please feel free to reach out to us. Learn more at agiledad.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.